The story of baby Holly made national headlines recently. There's a strong Arizona connection to a woman found alive and well more than 40 years after being separated from her murdered parents.
The killings are still unsolved. Authorities say a cult could be linked to these crimes. Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum reveals how this religious group played a central role in the case.
Baby Holly was left at a church in Arizona and was taken into their care.
The beginning of Holly Klaus's life is a mystery. Part of it takes place in the Arizona desert.
A nightmare. It was something that was on our mind constantly.
Donna Casasanta is Holly's grandmother. For more than 40 years, she had no clue where Holly or her parents could be.
Every time the phone rang, I think maybe this is it, maybe that. You don't want them to be dead, mind you, but yet you want to lay it to rest. You want to find out what happened.
In the late 70s, her son, Harold Dean Klaus Jr., and his wife, Tina, left Florida for Texas after having Holly. By October 1980, Donna stopped hearing from them. Investigators say a woman who went by Sister Susan called her, claiming she wanted to sell Dean's car back to his family. They met at the Daytona racetrack in Florida, where 3 young women appeared in white robes and sandals. They told Donna,
"Your son don't want any contact of you anyway, none of the family. They've joined a group, cult, and they're with us now."
By January 12, 1981, search dogs made a grisly discovery back in Texas.
2 deceased individuals were discovered in the wooded area in Houston, Texas. Their identities could not be determined at that time. What law enforcement did know is that they were likely murdered.
Last year, genealogists finally identified the bodies as Dean and Tina Klaus. Dean was bound and beaten. Tina was strangled when they died. The Texas Attorney General's office now providing details on the Nomadic religious group possibly connected to the murders and baby Holly's initial disappearance.
They indicated the beliefs of their religion included the separation of male and female members, practicing vegetarian habits, and not using or wearing leather goods.
I would watch people coming and going, and one day there was this group of people that come by, and they kind of caught my eye because I felt like they had walked just right out of the Bible.
Yvonne Peach owns the historic Coronado Motor Hotel in Yuma. She's been working here 7 days a week since 1979. From this very lobby, Yvonne has seen a world of people.
Yeah, that's them. I remember, like I said, it just, to me, you don't see people like that normally, you know?
She's staring at this photo, a group of people dressed in all white.
I've seen them several times.
And this photo taken decades ago in Santa Fe, New Mexico by Joe Simhart. You actually met members of this group decades ago?
Yeah, I was a portrait artist in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and beginning my research on the cult phenomena because I had just emerged from a large New Age cult myself. And lots of different groups, religions, preachers would show up on the Santa Fe Plaza during the summer while I worked there, and I would meet with them and talk to them.
Simhart is a cult information specialist. He says he's certain this group is the Christ family. Rick Allen Ross, author of Cults Inside Out, agrees.
Christ family is one of the most extreme cults that came out of the 70s and 80s. It was led by this man, Charles McHugh, who was known as Lightning Amen. He claimed to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
Who was this leader? Mugshots of Lightning Amen I obtained from California's Department of Corrections shows a middle-aged man with a distinct beard.
McHugh was a harsh leader, very extreme. He would manipulate scriptures out of context in the Bible to explain why he should have control and power over his followers' lives.
He was considered to be pathological by ex-members. So it wasn't like brainwashing works forever. For some people, it might work for a few months, for some people for 10 years.
In 1987, Amen was sentenced to serve 5 years in prison after being convicted of possessing and transporting meth for sale. In 2001, Amen was arrested again, this time accused of 3 counts of annoying or molesting a child under 18. He was found guilty on 1 count. Amen died in 2010. He was 73. Besides giving up worldly possessions and being vegetarians, Christ family members smoked marijuana as a sacred herb, and children were not wanted in the group.
The look was to look like nuns and monks.
They traveled throughout the southwest regions of the United States, cited in Yuma many times in the 1980s.
They would call this in the wind. They would be in the wind, and they would panhandle, they'd hustle food stamps.
So why would 21-year-old Dean and 17-year-old Tina get involved with the Nomadic religious group?
My belief is that the Klauses decided that they didn't want to continue with the group. And they may have also witnessed illegal activities involving the group's drug trafficking. So at that point, they disappeared, but they were murdered. And I don't think there's any way to separate those murders from Christ's family.
Loved ones tell me they're relieved that Holly was never harmed. Fox 10 now confirms she was brought to a Yuma church sometime after her parents were killed. I'm told a pastor and his wife adopted Holly, changing her life forever.
They were talking about adopting. Then all of a sudden, this baby's dropped on their front doorstep.
Last month, on Dean's birthday, June 7th, Holly was found and officially identified, now a 42-year-old mother of 5 living in Oklahoma.
I know that God placed her there. I know He did. We prayed and prayed, and
We're just so grateful that this family did give her. Very, very grateful.
But her biological parents still don't have justice.
What we need to know is who and why.
Yes.
Why?
It's important to note Holly's adoptive parents have never been looked at as suspects in this case. Meanwhile, the Dean and Tina Lynn Klaus Memorial Fund now supports law enforcement genetic genealogy investigations. The goal is to help identify more John and Jane Does with families who are waiting for answers. If you want more information, just head to our website.
Yeah, where do we go from here? How do we find more answers from here?
Well, that part is a challenge. It's been more than 40 years, but
Yeah.
investigators do know there have to be people who were in the Yuma area at the time that would have to remember people wearing white robes and walking around looking like this, and possibly know the 2 women who left baby Holly at this specific Yuma church, and really that's where her life changed. And if anyone knows anything, contact the Texas Attorney General's office, because there are 2 unsolved murders in Texas.
Or potential former cult members who got out and may be willing to talk and say what they knew.
That would be huge for someone in this group, someone, a former ex-member, like you say, that can actually say something and bring some justice for the family, because definitely this has been an overwhelming month for Holly and her adoptive parents. And, you know, we wish we could reveal the actual location and the name of this church, but at the same time, they do want some privacy right now. But this definitely was a pivotal moment that happened in the Yuma area. Now,
the cult was against having children as part of it. So the fact that they had a child made them kind of a target, potentially?
Well, according to cult experts, if in fact it is the Christ family cult, the Christ family group, then that is what they believe, that children were seen as excess baggage. And these experts, they've been studying groups like this for a long time. They are very, very certain that this is the specific group known as Christ family.
And the leader's not around anymore?
Leader has since passed away, and this group is believed to be defunct, but there are people out there that still follow him and believe in what he taught.
Fascinating.
Wow.
Justin Lum tonight. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.